বন্ধুগণ, আপনাদেরকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি আমাদের এই সাক্ষাৎকার অনুষ্ঠানে। আমরা আজকে কথা বলছি ইউরোপিয়ান ইউনিয়ন বাংলাদেশের রাষ্ট্রদূত জনাব চার্লস হোয়াইটলির সঙ্গে। Mr. Charles Whiteley, thank you very much for giving us the time. What is your impression about this time, the second time you are enjoying Bangladesh this time?
Well, yeah, it's a few years since I left Bangladesh, so I've already been back 2 years, so it's been a very busy time in the last 2 years, and now we have, as you know, the 50th anniversary, so I'm happy that we're taking forward our relations with Bangladesh on so many fronts, whether it's trade and investments or renewable energy, our political collaboration through the political dialogue. There's a lot of energy in the relationship now, and I'm looking forward to taking that forward as long as I remain here as EU ambassador. Anniversary year, so there's a lot happening this year in terms of our EU-Bangladesh relations. I think we've been gradually expanding our relations. So as you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was all about development cooperation assistance. Last year we launched in November our first political dialogue, and that was quite a significant moment because it said this relationship is now expanding. We talk about strategic issues, we talk about regional issues, Indo-Pacific, the Russian aggression in Ukraine. So we're also trying to expand on the trade and investment front. I think that's very important. It's increasingly clear that Bangladesh is becoming a more attractive place for European business. And part of my priorities has been to try to expand the opportunities for European business in Bangladesh. And we're working on different areas through the Global Gateway. So Bangladesh is a flagship country, as we're calling it, for the new Global Gateway strategy of the European Union, which is about expanding our support to infrastructure through a blending of loans and grants, so we can get quite substantial amounts of support that we can deliver for example, renewable energy, but we also hope in other fields like transport. So there's a lot to be happy about in the relationship. There's a lot of energy in the relationship, and I think we'll be taking that forward in the coming years.
What is the reason behind your looking the Bangladesh is an attractive for business with the European Union?
Well, I mean, I think Bangladesh is growing very well. The growth rate of the economy, Bangladesh bounced back very well from the pandemic, and it's had an impressively sustained growth rate. And that, you know, people notice that, business notes that. There's a growing consumer class, you know, millions of people who are becoming middle class and who can spend more on items that we could import from Europe. So I think the opportunities are growing. But we have to get the balance right. We have to make sure that there aren't unnecessary impediments to doing business, you know, rules that are unfair to foreign business. So I think that's one of the reasons why we want the European Chamber of Commerce to work hard to address some of these issues, to support European business to come to Bangladesh, but also to help Bangladesh business do business with Europe. And in that context, there are of course lots of new rules coming from Europe on the environment, carbon border adjustment mechanism, on social compliance and so on, where we need to make sure Bangladesh business is well placed to meet the new rules, so there'll be no blockages to their business in Europe. But it's a two-way process. I think, you know, it's no longer just about garment exports to the European Union. We want European business to be able to do good business in Bangladesh.
So in Bangladesh, nowadays you have seen the affected facing economic crisis because of the pandemic and also for the war in Ukraine. After these two global crisis, Bangladesh is facing serious economic or financial problems. How do you look at how to overcome this?
Well, I think I very much hope that the Russian aggression in Ukraine will stop soon, and it should stop soon, because it's clear that Russia has invaded a neighbouring sovereign country. It's violated international law. It's killed or injured over 20,000 civilians. 8 million refugees have fled abroad. And, as you say, it's had a very detrimental impact on economies like Bangladesh, who are half a world away, and who shouldn't suffer because of Russian aggression in Europe. So I hope that aggression stops and that there is a return to common sense and in Europe on the part of Russia. And then we can see a recovery. As we said, you know, Bangladesh came back strongly from the pandemic and now is facing the kind of issues that you mentioned with the economy. And a quick solution would be to end that aggression in Ukraine.
Now, Bangladesh is going to graduate from LDC to the middle income country into 2026, and you are now providing everything but the GSP facilities, but you are going to introduce GSP plus. You, your recent comments on the GSP plus, uh, what is the actually meaning? Could you explain the whether it has the related to the democracy or democratic practices? What you have actually mean that? Could you explain in detail?
I think it's first of all important to bear in mind what GSP Plus is. It's an incentive scheme. So it means that if a country signs, ratifies and implements 32 conventions, international conventions, in the social, environmental, human rights, labour rights field, they can have GSP Plus. And this brings duty-free and quota-free access to a large proportion of exports to the European Union. There are 7 countries presently benefiting from GSP Plus, all of which are engaged in monitoring and implementing these 32 conventions as a partnership with the European Union. But within those 32 conventions, there's the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which provides for free voting, for democratic conditions, and for all the sort of rights that we associate with a democracy, like freedom of expression. And so, for me, when and if there's a good free and fair election this year or next year in Bangladesh, that will mean there'll be a boost and it will very much assist Bangladesh as it moves towards GSP Plus, because it will be a visible demonstration that the ICCPR is being implemented fully in Bangladesh.
What are the other countries getting the GSP plus?
So in this region, there's Pakistan and Sri Lanka, but there are others, Bolivia and others. But in this region, the main countries are Pakistan and Sri Lanka, who've been GSP Plus beneficiaries for many years now. I think Pakistan since 2014.
So do you think that the two countries, the Pakistan and Sri Lanka, have the practicing democracy?
No, I mean, I'm not responsible for relations with Pakistan or Sri Lanka, but there are intensified engagement between the EU and those two countries in light of the issues that there are linked to the conventions. But it's a process. You know, nobody expects perfection. No country is perfect when it comes to democracy and human rights. It's about showing that the direction of travel is the right one and that there's a readiness to work hard to meet the conditions.
So at this moment, Bangladesh is enjoying the GSP facilities without arms. Huh?
Yes.
So, under this agreement, you have the conditions also, the democracy and human rights and others that you related. So this type of continuing engagement is not enough. Do you think that you should take for something more?
It's a different kind of engagement with everything but arms. There is some engagement, of course, especially on labour rights, but it's not a comprehensive look at 32 conventions. And when we do that with other countries, with GSP Plus, it means looking at UN reports and UN information about a given country. It's duty-free quota-free access now and everything but arms, without conditions per se, but with discussions about the National Action Plan on the labour sector in the context of the everything but arms. So it's a different intensity, because the bottom line is when you're a least developed country, then you are entitled, without conditions, to duty-free, quota-free access to the European market. And that's different to GSP Plus, which is for countries that have graduated or in a different state of economic development, where it's more of an incentive from the EU side to say, look, if we can work together on some of these issues of importance, you will still, even though you're not a least developed country, benefit from the best kind of access to our market. But it's more conditional because we treat developing countries different to how we treat least developed countries.
So, what will be the benefit? Whether it is like the GSP Plus is the same benefit you expect after 2026 to 2029, maybe, no?
So everything but arms will carry on until 2029. So there's a 3-year transition period, and then GSP Plus, if there's a smooth transition, will come in 2029.
2029. It will started from 2029.
Yes.
GSP Plus.
Yes.
What will be the benefits under the GSP Plus facility?
It's almost the same. So across over 2/3 of tariff lines will be eligible for duty-free, quota-free access. So it can bring continuity of access to the EU market for important sectors like garments, perhaps with a few different rules to the present regime. But as you know, the GSP regulation, which covers our entire GSP program around the world, is being revised now in negotiations between the Parliament and the European Commission and the European Council, and that will govern our relations for the next 10 years for all countries. So it's not finalised the exact shape of how GSP Plus will look in the next 10 years, but Bangladesh can rest assured that if it qualifies for GSP Plus, it gives very advantageous market access.
So can I go to discuss on the election, ahead of election? Bangladesh is, you are watching, there's a lot of things are happening. What do you expect on the next general election? The country is preparing, the parties are getting preparations, and also the international community is preparing to observe the election. How do you look at the situation ahead of the election?
I think the most important expectation is the expectations of the Bangladesh people, and I think Bangladesh people expect to have a free and fair election. I think we want to be a supportive international partner of Bangladesh without interfering or meddling in internal affairs, and that's why we are happy that the government has welcomed international observers. The European Union has a very good track record of sending election observers around the world. We do about 12 or 13 countries every year. And so this will give us an opportunity to bring people who are experts in international election standards to come and look at the process in Bangladesh and perhaps make recommendations as to how international standards can even better be observed in future elections. So for me it's a confidence building measure, I hope, and I hope all stakeholders, all political parties see the election observation mission as a confidence building measure, and that's why I think it's an important part of what we're doing to support the electoral process in Bangladesh.
What is the update about the preparation of the European Union election observation missions? I think this will be the largest one, because at the past, when your election observer mission came, that was the largest. So what is the preparation? What will be the size? And could you started the preparations? Can you update us about the details of the election observation mission?
So we have to take it step by step. The exploratory mission is proposed to come in July, and that comes to Bangladesh for 3 weeks. And that exploratory mission is a small team who will determine whether it's useful, feasible, and advisable to send a very large observation mission for the elections. And the observation mission, the full observation mission is, as you know, short-term observers and long-term observers. So we don't know the size yet. That's something that the exploratory mission will think about. And they look at all sorts of issues from security, they meet all the key stakeholders, election commission, political parties, civil society, media, and they make this recommendation. The decision to deploy the full election observation mission lies with our High Representative, Joseph Borrell, and he's included Bangladesh as a priority country. And as I say, we're very happy that the government and the Election Commission has welcomed this idea.
So, election exploration mission, what are the agendas they will actually look into? You have earlier said the election must be the inclusive one. If you look at the inclusiveness in context of Bangladesh, maybe Awami League and BNP, both parties should participate. In the past, we have seen, you were in here, that when European Union postponed their observation mission, that election was postponed. So what are the exploration missions actually look into the condition to deploy the full mission?
Well, I wouldn't prejudge what they're going to do, but in any country where they go, they look at both the electoral machinery, so what the apparatus of carrying out the election, they look at security, but they also look at the key freedoms that are part of a good election. So freedom of the media, freedom of expression, and they make a judgment about that as well in terms of whether it's advisable to bring an observation mission here. The High Representative has said that we won't send a full observation mission if it's not a participatory election. Again, I don't want to preempt what that means. It's not for me to say which parties should take part. That's a decision of each individual political party. But that again will fall to the exploratory mission to say, well, this is how it's looking in terms of participation. And of course, that situation can change very quickly. You know, political parties can make their minds up now or in 6 months or 3 months' time. That's part of their, you know, it's for them to make that decision. So we are just encouraging, in general terms, a participatory, peaceful, inclusive, democratic election.
Do you see any sign you have the engagement with the other international community and also the domestic political actors? Do you have seen any sign to changing the situation dramatically? As you have mentioned, the situation can change anytime.
Well, we're a partner of Bangladesh. It's not for us to, like I say, we're not here to meddle or interfere. I think we are here to encourage and engage and be a friend and partner of Bangladesh, and that's what we're trying to do as European Union. You know, as I said at the beginning, we have a very broad-based relationship with Bangladesh with important priorities that will carry on in the coming months and years. So we want the best. We want a prosperous, stable, peaceful, successful Bangladesh, because it's in our interest as well. And we want to be that good partner and see that stability and peacefulness happen also in the election period.
So you are in second time in Bangladesh as a European Union diplomat. Earlier you have worked here in different capacity. You have observed the same kind of condition. What I mean that the condition before election, but during the election time, that time may be the one element time, and many people says that that 111 happened due to the foreigners, particularly the Western diplomats' interference. But this time also there are quarrels. You are looking the Bangladesh ruling Awami League and the opposition BNP ahead of the election. Despite this is a regular phenomena, but in the last two elections in 2014. It was only Awami League participated. In 2018, Awami League and BNP participated, but BNP did not get the expected seats. So the quality of the election were under question by the Western countries, particularly America and its allies. But this time, what you are actually looking the difference between the past experiences, you have observed personally different times. And if you do not have any direct experience, you have observed from the far. So what is your actually evaluation? What is your actually observation about the situation this time?
So the first thing I can tell you is the EU has never engaged in meddling in domestic elections. So whatever people say about previous elections, we've always played a similar role as we're trying to play now, which is to be a supportive partner. And that support is articulated through the election observation mission that we will bring. We did also bring election observation missions in the past. We had an election expert mission in 2018, which is a much smaller exercise. But ultimately, as I said, you know, we're not here to interfere or meddle. Elections are for the Bangladeshi people and for the Bangladeshi parties and for all those who have a stake as Bangladeshis in the future of Bangladesh. So I think Bangladesh is very different now to when I was here 15 years ago. It's a different Bangladesh that's moved on, it's developed, and is heading towards, you know, developing country status. So, and Bangladesh has a much larger footprint in the world and has many friends around the world, big friends, you know, important powers who are partners of Bangladesh. And we as EU want to be that partner and a good partner and to support in any way that is deemed helpful.
So thank you very much. If you have any final words you want to say, it's the ending of this.
No, I appreciate it. It's good to be in touch again with you, Gantor, and to see you. And we look forward to carrying on building relations with Bangladesh in the coming years.
Thank you very much for giving time us. Thank you.